Hi everyone, Jenny Strebe of Confessions of a Hairstylist, and I'm in the Orbe educational space with Nikki Welsh, who is amazing. She works with Orbe, and she's going to show you guys a little hair how-to. So Nikki, what's your official title with Orbe?
It's a long title.
Oh, good thing I didn't say.
It's Lead Stylist of International Education, because you can probably hear from my accent, I'm not American.
Nope, not at all.
American, no.
Nope.
I'm actually British, but I live in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Amazing. So what are you going to do today?
Well, the internet has exploded with a really great braid, the Infinity Braid, and I have an academy in Copenhagen where we teach hair as well. And we broke down this system that was usable for the hairstylists, that they could actually find this braid easy to maneuver through with the fingers, and it stayed tight. Because I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of the ones that I've seen, it has holes in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get these little gaps. So with this system that we've got here with the great Maximista from Orbe, I really like that product in the hair to sort of like
some textures.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it hold. So that helps it stay squashed together. So when you guys come a little bit closer, you're going to be able to see how squashed together I can keep it.
Awesome.
And you can use it. I'm going to show a basic one which would be very usable within the salon, but you've seen it as well. I do a lot of cornrows with it and make a lot of different textures with it as well. So yeah, I'll just show you how I've started the hair. I've prepped a lot of the hair that I've got here, but I've got two sections here that I just wanted to show you. If you can see the difference in here, I've got this piece here that I've left out, and the underneath product layers I've got is foundation mist and a little bit of super shine light on the ends of the hair. The hair actually has you can see it's quite a natural curl to it, and it's very silky. And for me, when I'm doing this particular braid, when it's too silky, it's sliding out. So the Maximista, I feel for me, works absolutely amazing when I'm doing this. So when we apply products, we have to remember to apply it from the same texture from roots to ends and from front to back. Now, when I was training as a hairdresser, we used to get a big lump of mousse and squash it over the top many years ago. But we don't do that anymore now. So it's really, really important when you're working in the salon that you are sectioning out and making sure that you're applying the product evenly all the way over. It makes it much easier for you to work with, and it means that the hairstyle is going to last a lot longer because every hair needs to be coated in the same product. So that's the Maximus that I'm putting through. So I'm just putting this down with my fingers to smooth out the texture, taking the hairdryer and just putting the nozzle all the way down onto the hair to smooth out the cuticle. It doesn't have to be perfect, it can still be quite rough, but I just want to make sure that I'm getting most of the kink out of the hair, and my main thing is that I'm making it a little bit crunchy. So another area that I think is very important that we need to look at, this section here I haven't done before. This has all been done, but this isn't. You can see the hairline has quite a strong curl to it. I want some of it to be there, but I don't want all of it to be there. So what I'm doing again is I'm taking the Maximista into the roots here, just putting it in the direction I want the hair to go with the product as well. Then I'm going to go in with a comb. So when you're using a brush to blow dry, if you're round brushing a lot, you have all the small baby hairs here, and you can't control those with a big large brush. So what we do as well an awful lot backstage when we're working is to make sure that we're controlling every hair. So it's a great tip for when you've got clients with unruly growth patterns, is to actually use your comb to dry the hairline. So spin my nozzle around, and I'm using the comb then to flatten that out. And you can see that it's smoothing it out a lot better than if I was using the brush to do that. So I've still got quite a lot through this area. So I'm just going to put the product, especially these ones, these small baby ones here. Put the product through that. and smooth those out. And the great thing with this one is it's magnetic, so you can just spin it round in whatever direction you want it to go. You don't want to take it out completely, you don't want all the texture moved out of it, but you just need some control over it, and so you've got some grip. So now it's time to braid. And this, guys, is all about finger placement. So don't be worried if your fingers and thumbs to begin with when you start doing this. It's very normal to really have to practice this quite a few times before you get the general hang of it. Now what I like to do is I'm going to do a braid basically from the top of the crown here going down. So what I like to do is I'm just going to take a rough section at the top here. And you have to start with 2 pieces. You're basically going to start with 2 pieces of hair. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. I want the hair basically to come back in this direction, so through. So I'm taking this top section, sort of a bit like a horseshoe shape, and then I'm splitting this into 2. So I've got these 2 sections here. Now, what I like to do is I like to cross these 2 sections, because what that does is it closes up here.
I like that trick.
So
there's no split, right?
So there's no split, because with a lot of the braids that you see, you get that split, and there's a big hole in it, and it's sort of like it didn't have the finesse, and I just wanted it to have a little bit more finesse. So I crossed those 2 first. So those 2 are crossed. So then what I'm doing is I'm going to hold those either in my pinky finger or my ring finger. I'm going to be holding them over this side, and I'm going to be holding this over this side. So this is the general position that we want to be in. And when you pull to the side here, you will be tightening it. It makes it tighter. So it's not actually doing it right now, but it's just so that I want you guys to get into the general position and know the position, what we're aiming for. So now I've closed this, I've got my first 2 sections ready. These 2 sections are going to be your guide, what you're going to weave through all the way down the hair. So these 2 need to stay in the same place all the time. You're not going to be crossing these into each other. They are just going to be stationary. They will move, but they're going to basically be a panel down each side of this braid. So once you've got those 2 in place, then you're going to take your first section. So take your first section through to the side here, all the way into the center of the hair. And again, I'm not doing a cornrow. I'm not trying to make these sections completely perfect for this tutorial, but you can do. You can see on Orbé's Instagram, a lot of my braid pictures are on there, and you'll see some of the ones that are actually very, very sharp in the sections, but this is just a casual version, so we all get the idea of where our finger placement is. So that first section has to come underneath. You can see that it's woven underneath there. It has to come underneath. I put this section back into either my pinky finger or my ring finger. I go over the top of this section. Now, you need these 2 fingers. I don't know if you can see right from there. I'll move over so you can see. You need these 2 fingers to be there ready to pick up this section. So I'm putting a finger through here, holding it in place, and grabbing the section here that I've put through. Now I'm going to add in. So I'm adding in from both sides. Now this is quite important because this is what's going to keep it tighter for you and keep the lines straight. So I've added in from both sides. Now as soon as I pull this, you can see this starts to move up. You need to keep it moving up and you need to keep it tight. So you have to forgive me guys, I'm doing this in an angle so that you can actually see this. So I've added in from each side. Now what I want to do is I want to do a figure 8 system. So I've got my fingers here ready. I'm going to take under 1, tighten, I'm taking under 2, tighten, and I'm taking under 3. Now when I get to this position here, that's 1, 2, 3, now I add in again. And this is the recipe that I found works the best to keep these sections as clean as possible. Now, if you wanted that total tight cornrow effect, I would use Maximista on this point here. So I'm adding in, I'm taking this over, fingers ready, and because I added in already on that side, I have to add in on this side. Is this how you do it, Jenny?
I think so.
You think so? That's the thing, is when you actually stop to think how you do it,
yeah,
you're wondering how you do it. So now I've added in on both sides. Now we're going to do the figure 8 motion. So take it over, my fingers here ready. This is 1, and up, and over, and 2, and up, and 3. So when we get to 3, we're adding in again.
And how important is having that product in there? Because if you didn't, it would just slip, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't have it tight and nice how you...
I did it earlier when I first got here to just assess what the texture is. I think it's really important to actually assess your texture from root to end before you decide on your product application.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did it once very quickly. I did the braid very quickly to assess how slippy is it going to be and what would be the right mixture of products for me. So now, guys, you have to remember, fingers ready. So now we're doing the figure 8 again. 1, and 2, and 3. Now, if it starts to go loose, you just pull out to the side. So when I've got this position here, now I add in. And again, guys, don't judge me whether these are straight or not. I cannot see a thing from that side because you guys are right there by my side. So once I've added in from that side, remember you have to add in from the other side. Finger goes through, holding in place here, squeeze tight, add in from the next side as well. So every time you add in from one side, you have to add in from the opposite side if you want them parallel. On a lot of my pictures that I've got on my Instagram, I've done big chunks and I've basically assessed what patterns I could get in here. Because this is one thing, but then I wanted to see what patterns I could get through here as well. So on some of them, I've done them in sort of like, I've done opposites. So I've taken one side, woven through, then taken another side and woven through. So you can, once you've got this going, you can basically work different patterns into it. So now we're going into the figure 8 again. So 1, and 2, and 3. And then when we get to this position, make sure it's tight and add in. You guys getting there? Are they getting there? It's
Well, I find braiding is difficult for hairdressers that have never done braids before because our dexterity isn't used to working that way. So it just takes a little bit of practice, like you were saying, and then after that your fingers have memory and you can just braid away. But it just takes a little bit of patience and practice.
I don't know, but Jenny, if you find, I tend to find that if I've been doing this braid a lot, when I go back to do a normal cornrow or a normal braid, I have to rethink my finger placement again.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's completely okay. It's completely okay to sort of say, oh, maybe I don't get it quite right this time. I've just got a braid that you might have been doing for 20 years suddenly becomes a little bit alienated to you because you've put your fingers in a different position. 2 and 3. And also, guys, when you're practicing it, don't talk. You need to concentrate.
Don't have someone like me ask questions.
So you need to be able to really focus and concentrate. And what's going to happen, you see these little pieces, these are going to come out because it's obviously the front layers of the hair. Don't worry about that. It's all part of the fantastic texture that we're going to add into it. So when we've added from one side, we then add from the second side, making sure you're pulling out on both sides to keep it tighter. So any time that you start to see a gap, it's because you're not pulling tight enough. So when you pull tight enough, it'll stay there. Can you just tip your head down for me, darling? Thank you. Side and from the side again. Right, so add in. Making sure, I think one of the questions that I get asked a lot is how to add in. So you can see I've got this finger in the middle here. I'm keeping it tight here, so I've still got pressure, and I'm pushing up. It's important that I've still got pressure in here, because if I release the pressure, the whole thing is just gonna sort of spring out. So let me just show you that add in again. Pulling from the side, coming up and under, and as I'm coming under, see my middle finger here is going to hold onto this, and my pinching finger here is pinching it to hold it into place. I'm going to stand to the side so you guys can see again. Very awkward position for me to braid in, but please forgive me so you guys can see. So you see this is held into place here, and then I'm adding in to my pinching finger. That's basically what I'm going to call this, the pinchers, pinching it in. So then over to the side again now. 1, 2, and on the third one, thumb comes under, pinching fingers are ready, middle finger grabs and holds. Whew, guys, we're at the end now. Final stretch. Pulling it down, pull to the side, hold this one in place. Last section underneath here, add to the pinch, pull to the side, and figure 8. Holding it tight, pulling. The great thing is that when you're pulling, you're actually only pulling the hair that's up here, so you're not actually hurting your client at all when you're pulling. So you can really get a good grip on it. So there we go, down to the end. So I'm going to hold that into place with a clear elastic band. Time, hoping that it doesn't break as we're doing this.
Now you brought up kind of a good point. You were talking about, you know, don't mimic your body positioning because you're kind of at an angle. And why is that? Because you could over-direct the braid?
Well, yeah, you'll over-direct it. If we looked at this very critically, which of course, guys, you're not doing to me today, are you? You're going to be very sweet. But if we looked at this very critically now, if we looked at it exactly right on, I can see at some points I've moved over to the side. The braid actually moves over to the side, and I think that's a great point, that your body position is so important when you're braiding, especially if you're going to be doing cornrows. That just like that slight adjustment of your body will send it in a totally different direction. So there are sort of like little areas there that I can see, but I mean, what I'm going to do is I just want this sort of like loose effect coming through here. So I'm just running my fingers through it just to close up a few of the sections. When I'm doing it in cornrows, I actually really love to see these sections. I just did a little time-lapse video the other day for my Instagram, where I really brought these sections out. So it depends, but I think for this, I think this is very wearable. I think this is like great for the salon, great sort of great updo. You can obviously as well add different textures to the ends here. You can cut it up, do a little wave movement if you wanted through here. You can twist it back up, put it into itself. There's so many different variations, and I think as well, I think we're putting it up, guys, on American Salon. We're putting up 2 different textures. I did this earlier today, and I did one that is like this, very smooth, And then I did another one where I'm rubbing out all the texture. I'm really bringing out all the texture, and I'm bringing out these little small pieces of layers and making that messy texture as well. So yeah,
It looks great.
That's about it, actually. So
and then we kind of were talking about earlier how this type of braid, since it's so detailed, you can almost see it better on blondes or people that have some kind of tonal dimension, right?
Yeah.
If her hair was black, you might not be able to see all the details as well. But yeah,
but also remember, with the lighter hair, you can also see where you go wrong.
That's true. That's true.
It's true. But I wanted you guys to actually see all the details, and I think, as you say completely correctly, the blonde color with the tones lets you see the actual sectioning, the actual pattern, and I think it's a little corn on the cob style as well sometimes. Sometimes, so yeah, and I mean, this as well for a very fashiony look. We're very sort of minimalistic in Scandinavia, where I'm from, but we were still sort of like bringing the hairline out and just sort of like making it a little off. You know what I mean?
A little lived in.
Yeah, a little lived in. We're very, Scandinavia is very, as you can see from my hair, guys, we're very sort of like, very more sort of like lived in and just a little off and just not quite so perfect.
But I feel like that's more wearable, really, for all types of textures and people. It's salon reality.
Exactly. So your finishing products with what you could do with this now is you could go through, if you wanted to shine it up a little bit more, we have the All-Day Gel Serum. That is, it does have a serum, so it is still very, very soft, but it will give you a really nice shine. And you could then, turn your head this way, you could just sort of release, because now you've got this in, you've got it in, but you could sort of release this up. You could just put a little bit of gel through it and separate it out a little bit more, get a little bit more height into it. We have Imperial, which is fantastic. I don't know, you know that product, fantastic, just sort of like very light hold, very natural hold, but still, it still keeps everything in place. That's also a really nice finishing spray to use through it. So I think what the great thing is, and what fascinates me, is trying product combinations in textures. So what we do a lot in my academy is we will take the same head of hair and we will take, say, the same curling technique, but we will do 4 different product combinations on it, so that we, as the hairstylists, understand what those products are going to do and give ourselves a recipe if we wanted to change the texture. So you get 1 head of hair, and when you test 4 different product combinations with the same curling technique, all of a sudden you can see one might automatically become more beachy, one might be more glossy and glammed, because of the product texture. And I think that's a great tip, that if you, well, you have got time. You've all got time. We do all have time. I know we're busy, but I mean, it's just
make time. I mean, that's how we're going to learn as hairstylists and grow. So
yeah, to make time and to give back. You're actually going to give back to yourself, because once you have that knowledge and understanding, you can create something completely different on the same head, on the same hair, but it would be completely different because of the product combination. So yeah,
it's a good word of advice, you guys. Well, cool. Well, this looks fantastic. Where can people find you, Nikki?
I'm going to scoot in here with you guys.
Hi. Behind the camera and now in front of the camera.
Yes, if you are just joining us, you guys, I'm Courtney Bright. I'm the Senior Social and Digital Editor at American Salon. We are live right now with Orbe here at New York Fashion Week, and I'm here with Nikki Welsh and Jenny Strebe. And if you did just tune in, I saw you guys, a couple of you guys comment. You can go back once this video ends and watch it from start to finish. You can pause, you can see all the techniques that Nikki did and the products that were used. And before we sign off, where can we find you online?
You can find me at Nikki Welsh on Instagram, and that's spelled actually NICCIWELSH. And yeah, you're going to see a lot of this on my Instagram.
Perfect. They love it. And Jenny, where can we find you online?
The Confessions of a Hairstylist on Instagram.
Superstar.
You both are superstars, and thank you both for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. And thank you guys for tuning in. You know where to find American Salon on Facebook, because we're all here. We're on Instagram at American_Salon, where I'm taking you guys behind the scenes with Orbe today and tomorrow here at Fashion Week. And we're always online at AmericanSalon.com. So thank you both again. Thank you to our gorgeous model, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.